prohibited.
And there's Danny White talking, I would assume, to Paul Hackett.
1st and 10 at the 48.
We're ordering a pizza.
Danny White, I don't think he ever gotten the credit he deserved. Part of the reason I talked about earlier, when you follow somebody like Roger Staubach, it doesn't come easy to you.
Farrell in motion. Cardinals from the 48. Dropped off for Anderson. He drops the ball, and it's ruled an incomplete pass. It was a forward pass. Had it not been, then it would have been a live ball. But it's a forward incomplete pass. 2nd down.
Say that about Danny White because he has taken them, as we look at the play once again, and it was right at the official, so he knew it was a forward pass. But
close.
Danny White, in his first 3 years, took the Cowboys to conference championships, but he could never do what Roger did, and that is to get into the Super Bowl. And he is part of the reason they won 13 division titles. And they have just had an amazing record, not only under Staubach, but over the last 18 years, they have been incredible.
Hey, that was a close call right there. Cardinals fortunate that it went their way. 2nd down and 10 from the 48-yard line. That's Smith to the left. Coleman comes in motion, bottom of your screen, and the draw play give to Farrell into Cowboy territory, and he stopped at the 43, and it looked like he was thinking about lateraling, and that's why he fumbled. As he was going down, it looked as if he was trying to get rid of the football.
He likes to do that. He was the one that lateraled Lomax earlier after taking the first forward pass, and I don't know what he thought Lomax was going to do.
And you're lucky they've recovered.
They do get it back, but tuck that thing away. It's a little more secure that way. Look at it again. Draw play. Everything closed up inside, principally because of Randy White, number 54, and to the outside goes Farrell. He's looking for somebody to get it to, I think. Perhaps one of his linemen, Jeff Rohr, that put the pop on him now.
And a break for St. Louis as they keep possession. So a couple of breaks here for St. Louis on a call that was real close, and then a recovered fumble to keep this drive going. 3rd down 4. Cardinals at the Cowboy 45. 7:03 to go in the 3rd. Dallas ahead by 10. Shotgun.
They need some points out of this drive. That's going to help.
And that's Dutton coming through right over Joe Bostic, number 71.
Won't start. Number 71. Offense. Still 3rd down.
And Bostic drew him off, according to Jorgensen.
Instead of a 3rd and 3, you move into a 3rd and 8, and you desperately needed this first down. Right side, Bostic 71. Yep. There's the movement, no question. Dutton, he's been around a while. He doesn't hesitate at all because he knows he's going to make the contact and get the call.
5th time the Cards have been penalized, and again they were 2nd in the league after 3 weeks in penalty yardage. Oddly enough, 2nd only to Washington, unbeaten.
Makes a dramatic change in the play you can call now.
3rd and 8, shotgun from the 50. Lomax looking and then throwing, and off the fingertips of Troy Johnson, number 87. So the extra wide receiver, the man signed as a free agent last week out of Southern University, can't hold it.
Look again, Johnson, it was a little behind him. Obviously a pass that he should have had. There it is, just a little behind, but Lomax took one look at him and said, that was our first down, man, and Lomax walked off the field. But again, keep in mind, he's only been working with Troy Johnson for just a few days. Johnson, along with Fox, just signed recently because of the injuries to Roy Green and Pat Tilley.
Gordon Banks is at the 10. Evan Arapastathis, who has been kicking short punts all night, has this one fielded at the 11-yard line. A fair catch by Banks. So 33, 37, 41, and now a 39-yard kick. And the Cowboys. Lewis on this warm evening with the Cardinals trailing by a score of 17-7. The Dallas Cowboys have the ball at their own 12-yard line, 1st and 10.
That was play-by-play?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And
I
color.
thought that was color.
Take your pick. 1st down from the 12. Cowboys start this drive sending Banks in motion and giving the ball, no surprise, to Walker, and he picks up 5 on 1st down. By the way, the record, as we mentioned, for consecutive 30-point games at the start of the season, 4 Cowboys trying to tie it tonight. The Giants, Fran Tarkenton at the helm in 68. Buffalo, led by O.J. Simpson in 75. And as you can see, neither of those teams made the playoffs. The Giants wound up 7-7. The Bills didn't go to the playoffs.
And the next year, Alex Sherman was fired by the Giants, and Alex Webster became the head coach.
And the Cowboys within 2 touchdowns of doing it tonight. 5:40 to go, third quarter. Fake and a toss out to the 24-yard line and a first down as Gordon Banks is taken down there. And we can tell you the Cowboys, with a couple of injuries, Thornton Chandler, the good-looking tight end, who had been spelling Cosby of late, shaken up in the first period, twisted knee. He won't be back in. Robert Levette, the backup running back and return man, x-rays negative on an injury to his lower right leg, so he is out. So Dorsett is in Dallas and Levette is on the shelf. But all you have left is Herschel and Newsom.
And the word is, for Cowboy fans, they will get Mike Renfro back next week. He's been on the injured reserve since the Bear game, first preseason game played in London back in August.
Newsom and Walker are the running backs. That's Hill going into the slot. And Herschel with some blocking out in front, looking for room to the outside and making his own room, taking it to the 36-yard line. We asked Herschel today about something he had said a few years back when he'd indicated that eventually he wanted to become an FBI agent. And he told us today that's exactly what he wants to do. And he'd do it now if he had the chance, but his wife would kill him.
He would make an awfully good disguise, I think, at this point. There'd be no undercover work.
That's right.
He also talked about the time he wanted to leave football at the University of Georgia and train for the Olympics. And he told us that years ago on Wide World of Sports, and he was seriously thinking about it.
2nd and 5 from the 36. He is stopped after a gain of 1. Run down there by David Galloway. I asked Walker today about Bo Jackson. I said, what do you think of Jackson's decision? And he said Bo had called him and had talked about whether it should be baseball or football. And Herschel said you got to do what you like the most. And Herschel said he was a little bit surprised. He thought that Bo was going to opt for football.
You've seen Bo. What do you think? Good decision.
As a baseball player, I think he's got tremendous potential. There's no question about that.
Walker has much more of the potential.
Yeah.
He is going to change the offensive whole scheme of things for the Cowboys.
On 3rd and 4, Danny White throwing, and it's caught at the 48-yard line by Tony Hill, who is quietly having a pretty good night. A reminder, we were talking about baseball, and we'll have coverage of the baseball playoffs beginning next week. And I'll be going to Fenway Park with Jim Palmer for Boston and California. So Frank will be joined by O.J. Simpson at the Kingdome next week, San Diego against Seattle. And then Lynn Swan will come aboard as Pittsburgh takes on Cincinnati on the 13th of October. Our next 2 Monday night presentations, and as usual, beginning at 9 Eastern time.
Seattle very strong, just getting edged by Washington this past week.
And a little history can be made at the Kingdome next Monday night as well, as on first down, White lost it, and it's incomplete. Screen intended for Newsom, never set up, and Al Baker got a hand on it to deflect it. But there he is. Steve Largent tied Carmichael's mark yesterday, 127 consecutive games in which he's caught a pass, and you'll have a chance to witness the record next week.
Remarkable record. I talked to another Tulsa-nite. Howard Twilley had lunch with him yesterday in New York, former Miami great wide receiver, and we were talking about Largent. Largent just rolls on and on. Great All-Pro of a year ago. Had the most yardage of any receiver a year ago. And that's hard to believe because he's not a blazing speedster, but he is an amazing athlete. We'll be there for that.
2nd and 10. Banks in motion from the 48-yard line. White, and he lost the football. It's a loose ball at the 32-yard line, and the Cowboys keep it. But Danny had it slip out of his hand, ruled a fumble, and it was Glenn Titensor, 63, falling on it.
That happens more often than you think it could happen. That ball is slippery either from the rain that took place right prior to the game, or it's a very humid night. Perhaps sweat dripping down from the center onto the ball. That's all it is. He tried to unload it and out of his hands. And they were lucky to get it back.
Back at the 31-yard line.
They're on 32.
And it is actually, it's 3rd down, and they're 10 yards apart here. It's 3rd down and 26 from the 32-yard line. 3rd and 26 is correct from the 32.
This would be one you'd suspect they'd try to get it to Walker some way on a short pass and then let him work with it.
White drops it to Walker on the short little screen over the middle, and he does some pretty nifty work with it, but he is still 12 yards shy of the first down. And Dennis Thurman, the former Cowboy, makes the tackle.
Dennis, of course, long-time Cowboy starter for many years, then wound up a career down there in the past couple of years as a nickelback. Has a younger brother playing some fine defensive football for USC, where Dennis played.
Mike Saxon to punt. And Vi Sikahema to receive at the 10. A minute and a half to go in the third quarter. 17-7 Cowboys. Cardinals try to set up a return, but Sikahema will call for the fair catch and makes it at the 19-yard line. And the crowd wants Victor Scott flagged for a penalty, but no call. 35-yard punt. So here come the Cardinals with a minute 15 to go in the third. And Dallas and Frank Gifford with you from Busch Stadium in St. Louis, where the Cardinals are down by 10 and have the football at their own 19-yard line, 1st and 10. St. Louis trying to break into the win column. And only Green Bay and Indianapolis at this point are winless. Meanwhile, on the other side, 4 unbeaten teams: Denver, Chicago, Washington, Atlanta. How about the Falcons? First down from the 19-yard line. Anderson gets 3. Dawned on me, Frank, when I said, how about the Falcons? How about them Falcons? How about them Bulldogs in Athens? And you can apply it to the professional team as well in Georgia. Meanwhile, we can tell you the league championship series, no races left, oddly enough, but a pair of most intriguing league championship series coming up. Boston and California, and the future Hall of Famers will be in that one, and Mock and McNamara, the managers. And then, of course, it's the Mets and Houston with the great pitching and the MVP candidates. Best of 7. American League begins next Tuesday. National League a week from Wednesday. On 2nd down and 9, Lomax gets sacked back at the 7-yard line. Too tall.
And they brought everyone but Ernie Statner, the defensive coordinator that time, and they had too many people in the pattern. Let's take a look at it. Bates is number 40. Hagman is number 58. They were in the 4-0 defense, and Bates is like a linebacker. And there was panic along that offensive line. They knew they were not going to pick it up. Lomax tried to get away from it. No chance whatsoever. Ed Jones, he's been around for so long, and he's still getting it done all-pro fashion. That's his first sack of the season, but he keeps deflecting the football. They put him on that left side for a reason. Most quarterbacks are right-handed. They like to throw to the right. And he is 6'9", and it is tough to throw over Ed Jones.
Clock down to 5 seconds left in the period. And on 3rd and long, Lomax, it's all he can do to get out of the end zone at the 1-yard line. And for the moment, the clock is stopped as Jeffcoat gets that sack with 2 seconds remaining.
Now, Ralph Sappas is going to be in tough shape here because they will not be able to kick from the spread. They've already blocked a field goal. The Cowboys are a good special team against the punt and the field goal. Fellows and Downs are excellent at blocking kicks.
And meanwhile, as the clock is now restarted after the ball is put in play, they'll change ends of the field. And so in a park in which the wind is really no factor, Rapistathis will be kicking the other way when we start the... Well, as we start the 4th quarter, if you're wondering the average weight of a punter, they're bigger and they're heavier than this man right here, but he is scrunched into the back of his end zone.
He may be shorter after this one.
Yeah, he could be down to about 5'6".
He'll have to hurry it because he cannot kick from the spread. Everything is tightened in on him because they're at the 1-yard line.
Cowboys have already blocked one tonight, but there's the snap, and he does get it away. And all things considered, a pretty good kick.
Fine kick.
Out to the 50-yard line, so that's a 49-yard punt, but a nice run back by Banks, who gets popped at the 39-yard line by Freddie Joe Nunn, who's been the first man down on several kicks tonight.
Sigh of relief. Look what I did, Mom.
He needed it too.
He's averaging 37 yards into that one. He needed that. He might have been taking up another profession.
What the Cardinals need now is they have to stop Dallas, and they got to stop without first downs here because a 10-point Cowboy lead, and they're already in great shape at the Cardinal 39-yard line, so not much more before they get into field goal range in the opening seconds of the fourth quarter. Herschel, what a great total weapon, but think about him on first down and what he's been doing tonight on first down. You can count on those 6 and 7 yards and set up the numerous 2nd and 2, 2nd and 3s.
Your ordinary human being would get 3 or 4 yards out of that, and he gets you 6 instead of 2nd down and long. You wind up with a 3rd down and 2nd down and 4th. You can do a lot of things from that position.
And of course, he is still number 2 on your depth chart. Newsome and Walker behind White. Newsome with Walker laying down a block, and Timmy looking for the first down and getting it. At the 28-yard line, Wayne Smith running him out of bounds.
Awesome weapons as we look at Rafferty, the center, who's had 153 consecutive starts as of tonight. But you look at Timmy Newsome running there. He's a good running back. He's a terrific receiver. Robert Levette, by the way, went in for x-rays. He had a damaged knee, but there was no definitive word on the extent of that injury. But they have Daryl Clack, a 2nd-round draft pick out of Arizona State. Good running back, the rookie from Arizona State. All these weapons.
1st and 10. Cowboys from the 27-yard line. Fake to Walker. White comes back the other way for Banks, and a nice catch at the 17-yard line as he stays in bounds, covered by Lionel Washington.
Banks just about the same size as Mike Renfro, and he has a lot of the same moves. The former Stanford player, a quick drive, forcing Lionel Washington to back off. Washington, they've been picking on all night, had pretty good position on him. He was man for man. You have to give him a little something because the end zone is right behind you. That was a well-thrown ball, a well-timed ball.
Banks, who caught a pass in 54 USFL games, every one he played in. 1st and 10 from the 15-yard line, and Walker spins and picks up 3, and then they still don't have him down.
He has one of the characteristics that Jim Brown had. When Jim Brown got into a pile, there'd be 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 defensive players. All of a sudden things would stalemate for a moment, then the pile there would be sort of a surge forward, and that happens with Herschel Walker. Tremendous strength. Jim Brown was like that.
Interesting fellow, Walker. For those who've gotten a chance to get to know him, a kid who grows up in rural Georgia, and yet at the age of 24, and granted he's been in the limelight a long time, he says all of the right things. 2nd down and 7 from the 13-yard line, and Walker has to reach back and turns what might have been a loss into a gain. And it's not that we're diminishing growing up in the rural part of Georgia, but here's a kid who grows up in circumstances in which all of a sudden he is thrust into this tremendous attention as you watch what he can do with this play, the pitch behind him. And yet at the age of 24, I think you'd have to admit, Frank,
I think we're trying to say
beyond his years.
Marvelous presence about him, considering everything that's come his way, the Heisman Award. He could be as dingy as they come, and he isn't. He happens to be a first-class young man who is deeply religious, cares greatly about his personal life with his wife, and said to us, I am just now, this year, learning to love this game of football.
3rd down and 3. White lofting it, and it's a touchdown. You guessed him.
Might have been a mistake.
When Herschel is that open, it has to be. When anybody's that open, it has to be.
4th touchdown of the season, and let's watch out of the backfield. Danny White, no play action or nothing. Just a mess up on the part of the cornerback, I suspect. Wayne Smith, Herschel Walker blowing right by him. Look at it again. Wayne Smith looks right into Walker and then just lets him go. Actually, Smith was looking at Tony Hill.
And somewhere in Santa Fe, I get the feeling that the dandy one is ready to croon, don't you?
He and Roger Miller are getting together tonight, checking it all out. We'll be looking at Roger's videos of Big River still running on Broadway.
Septien kicking the extra point.
And they'll be happy while they're watching.
Yeah. Meredith's old club on top, 24-7. Bob Uecker, who will do anything for an on-camera. In his normal position here in Busch Stadium. That guy looked like him. Septien kicking off, taken at the 6-yard line by Vai Sikahema, who comes out past the 20, 30, and to the 33-yard line. And the Cardinals definitely have to go the length of the field here because we're down to 10:55 to go. The Cowboys looking sharp, up by 17, and it was Walker from White, and Danny's thrown 3 touchdown passes tonight and 7 the last 2 games.
Not a bad night for Herschel Walker. He hasn't broken anything major, but he's 75 yards on the ground rushing. He's caught 5, 58 yards, 133 yards. I guess you call it kind of ordinary. You wonder what's going to happen down the line. And Tony Dorsett had 3 great games. Certainly Dorsett games coming into tonight when he couldn't play because of the knee. We'll talk about it in a moment. But when Tony comes back in a week or 2, how do you get them in there together? Or do you?
First down from the 33. And it's Lomax throwing incomplete.
And they continue to try to work against Fellows, and that time J.T. Smith either changed patterns on Lomax, or just doesn't have the speed with a very sore ankle that Lomax anticipated he'd have. He hurt his ankle on Friday, and rather on Thursday, missed the Friday workout, and they did not have a workout on Saturday, so they did not know what kind of percent J.T. Smith would be coming into tonight, and it did not look like he was able to turn it on that play.
Second down and 10 from the 33-yard line. Incomplete, intended for Farrell, and it's 3rd and 10. And the crowd's getting antsy.
Well, you have to have more of a touch on that. It was a great time to have that play call, too. The blitz was on. The man they had out covering Farrell was Ed Jones. That could have turned into a big one.
Notre Dame travels to Alabama to take on the Crimson Tide. You'll see that game Saturday. CFA coverage beginning at 3 o'clock Eastern time. 3rd down and 10.
Fans want them to go, but they just don't have the equipment to go.
And I think the chant is for Stout, if I can read it correctly. Incomplete, but that's going to be the chant of any crowd whose quarterback is having trouble getting the offense going. And there is Cliff, the former Steeler, and then out of the USFL. And when he came back, he said there was no way he was going to play for Pittsburgh. And so the Steelers dealt him over here, dealt his rights to the Cardinals.
Went off to Birmingham in 1984 after 4 years of Pittsburgh. Started a couple of years there. Wasn't anything terribly spectacular with the Steelers, but he was to be their quarterback in the future when he went to the USFL.
So the 5-syllabled one, Arapastathis to kick it on 4th down, and a wobbly kick, not much distance, and out of bounds at the 33. And the Cardinals really having trouble, among other things, with their kicking game this season. The punting's been very mediocre to below average, and Lee's off to a bad start, and that's a 34-yard punt. Dallas scoring in each period, on top by a score of 24-7, and the Cowboys can now begin to think about taking some time off the clock, which is down to 10:35 to go in the 4th quarter as they start this drive from their own 33-yard line. First and 10. Walker and Newsome behind White. This time it's Newsome for a change of pace, but no change of pace for the Cardinal defense out to the 39-yard line. It's a gain of 6, and it'll be 2nd down and 4. And a little shoving going on. Brilliant move, though, by the Cowboys, taking Walker in the 5th round of the '85 draft. Again, he had the long-term contract with the USFL. So what the Cowboys were doing, basically gambling, as you look at Landry, gambling that somehow, some way down the line he'd become available, and that's exactly what took place. And they had his rights and signed him to the deal. And Dorsett, of course, was a little angry at the outset and a little clashing of egos, but all things considered, everything working very well to this point.
Well, Tony was the one that took Herschel Walker and worked with him a great deal also.
Off the hands of Cosby, and it'll be 3rd down and 3.
What a wonderful problem you have if you're Tom Landry. How do I play them both?
And for Paul Hackett, who comes into this offense, it's like finding a new toy. It's like being a mad professor with a whole bunch of new chemicals in your chemistry set.
The year he leaves the 49ers, they lose Montana for what will probably be an entire season, even though Jeff Kemp is doing a superb job with them. It comes down to take over the offensive duties of running this football team. It's Paul Hackett. And all of a sudden he has somebody named Herschel Walker to go with the Tony Dorsett and the Tony Hill. And next week, as I mentioned, they're going to get Renfro back. And while they're strong offensively now, they're going to be much stronger in the weeks to come.
3rd down and 4 as Banks goes in motion. And Danny White under some pressure from Freddie Nunn throws incomplete and nobody is there. So he was pressured to the point where he had to unload it, and the Cardinals want grounding, saying that nobody was there.
You speak of Paul Hackett, when he was with the 49ers, his offense was basically predicated around Roger Craig, who could be the type of back that we could have with Herschel Walker with the Cowboys, and Wendell Tyler, who would be a Tony Dorsett type. Perhaps the Cowboys might get to that later in the season. Get them both in there at the same time.
Saxon to kick. 9:48 remaining in the 4th. Cowboys lead by 17. They try to block it, send 8 men in, and it's Sikahema from his own 21-yard line, and without any blocking. Nice little run back out to the 33-yard line. All right, tonight's quiz. Who holds the NFL record for the most rushing yards in his first NFL game? Now, we mentioned before Otis Anderson broke in as a rookie in 1979 with that sensational game.
How about Billy Andrews?
So he is not the answer. You're saying William Andrews?
Well, that's just a shot.
No.
I know he had a big one as when he came in.
I got to admit, I peeked. We'll give you a minute to think about this.
I hate researchers.
I discovered it by accident. 1st down from the 34. Holman in motion. Play fake, pump, and then a throw over the middle, and J.T. Smith was covered. And the crowd comes down on Lomax again. 2nd down and 10. Well, you know it's not Anderson at 193. You know who it is, Frank? Man you played against out of Wisconsin. The horse.
Alan Meachie.
Yep, right there. 194 in 1955 in his very first game.
One game too many.
The original horse.
Well, he was a horse and a quarter at least.
Boy, at least.
58 overtime championship game, Baltimore. It was a Meachie.
He was a colt and a half. Draw play, and that doesn't fool anybody. And Earl Farrell is stopped back at the 28-yard line. And I guess you try anything. You'll call anything at this point. You know, it reminds me, Anderson with that tremendous first game and Amichi's record. And then last week we pointed out that Walter Payton debuted in the mid-70s with 0 yards against the then Baltimore Colts in his Bears debut.
He has taken care of that.
Yes, he has.
What happens for the Cardinals tonight? You know, you have to feel for Gene Stallings. He just does not have the weapons, and what weapons they have, they're drawing the full attention of the Cowboys defense. They know that they just can't do many things.
3rd and 14 and going deep and incomplete. And Troy Johnson was the intended receiver. There's a flag down back near the line of scrimmage. And it's against Dallas. Jorgensen indicating they were offside.
Offside, number 23, defense, lined up in the neutral zone. Still 3rd down.
Arapastathis breathes a slight sigh of relief. He doesn't have to think about kicking, at least for the next several seconds.
That was Johnny Holloway out of the 4-0 coming on the blitz, who was offsides, as Lomax tried to get it to the one piece of speed he has on the field, and that's the first-year man out of Southern University, former Denver player from the USFL, who has been timed in a 4.3 40, so he can run.
3rd down and 9 from the 36. Lomax pressured, throwing for Farrell, and has it picked off at the 45-yard line by Michael Downs. And he takes it down to the 27-yard line. And that will summarily write a conclusion to the Cardinal hopes with 8:33 to go in the 4th quarter.
Again, pressure on Lomax. He just put it up there and was hoping for the best out of it. He was drawing a crowd. Randy White was there. Bates was there on the blitz. And again, it has to be tough for Gene Stallings, because these players that he is going against tonight, here's one of them. Gene Stallings turned into an all-pro. He was a free agent back in 1981 out of Rice, as was Everson Walls. They came under the tutelage of Gene Stallings, and they turned into all-pros, and now he's watching them work against him.
Walker on 1st down. He wants to stay in bounds, keep the clock rolling, and takes the loss to be able to do just that. So Michael Downs, who has blocked the field goal in each of the last 2 games, intercepting one tonight, and putting the Cowboys in terrific shape as they get set to proceed to Denver next week. That's their next outing. Things don't get any easier for the Cardinals as the New York Giants come into St. Louis on Sunday.
Cowboys, they're not admiring their defense tonight. I mean, their offense tonight, but their defense has been hurting. And John Elway, they give him the time that they have been giving up. He will really work them over.
White throwing to nobody. Tony Hill ran a different pattern. And I guess if you're going to be on the wrong page, it might as well beat leading 24-7 with 7:47 to go.
This is the Paul Hackett offense. Now, you have to be able to read the defense. You don't run the set patterns. Hackett, and like the 49ers, their receivers have got to be, as you say, Al, on the same page, because they run different routes against a different defense. If they see man-to-man, then they run a different pattern. If they see a zone, they're going to pull up in a certain area. If they see any kind of double teaming, if they see inside-outside coverage, everything is different. And that time, Danny White and Tony Hill were definitely not in sync.
3rd down, 13, and they give it to Walker. They like to run this play out of the shotgun, and he picks up 5 as he gets to the 25-yard line. It'll be 4th down, and Septien will come in for what will amount to about a 42-yard attempt. Raphael.
And Septien is on a string. What does he have? 8 in a row now? 16 out of 17.
He has not missed a kick this season. There he is career-wise, and the percentages, and this one will come between the, well, it's in the 40 to 49-yard range. As they will spot it down, will Steve Pellure, the backup quarterback, at the 32-yard line.
So much hangs with that holder and the center. That's Rafferty.
And this one is no good. Line to the left.
Wouldn't you know it?
Moral victory for the Cardinals. They'll get it back. 7:01 to go, but the Cowboys comfortably in front by 17. 7 minutes to go. You've done this gig for 17 years, 16 years now, Frank. What do you do? Bring out the kazoo here?
I don't know. What are we doing on camera?
I don't know.
I've got a guy named Brad that has a kazoo out of the Salty Dog in the Hamptons. We can work him in here.
I'll get the clarinet, and away we go.
A little sad for Gene Stallings. I really mean it. He wanted to come in and play his first game against his old mentor, Tom Landry. He wanted to come in and play him strong and tough. He doesn't have the people to do it. It's a helpless feeling when you're head coach.
No.
You don't have the folks.
Yep. And even at full strength, again, St. Louis cannot stack up with Dallas. There's no question about that. And particularly so when you're minus Green and Tilley and Stump Mitchell. Here's Otis Anderson, who led the charge that resulted in the Cardinals' only touchdown of the night on the initial drive of the 3rd period. Then he gets a couple, and the crowd doesn't like the call, or whatever's left of the crowd is about 60% of what was a full house at Busch Stadium is on their way back to I-70. 2nd down and 8. Cardinals from the 27-yard line. 6.5 minutes to play in the 4th. Anderson again, and a fumble. And they get it back at the 31-yard line.
Mention the crowd, Al. It's been a lot of years between happiness for these Cardinals. As we look at the fumble again, recovered by the Cardinals. Never did handle the football. And the last time the Cards were in the playoffs, they went in 1982. Now that was a strike-shortened season, 9 games. They were 5-4. But the last real playoff team that they had were over a decade ago, when Don Coryell was the coach here back in 1975 and 76. They've struggled since then.
It's a good point. In 1982, that's the only time in the last 10 years the Cards have been in the playoffs, and they expanded the playoffs that year because of the strike. Here's Wolfley on a play they ran initially, and they don't have any more success with it in the 4th period than they did in the 1st. Pushed back by Otto, and the crowd getting very restless. And the Cardinals will make you restless, because the Cardinals go into the playoffs only once in the last 10 years, and only Kansas City and New Orleans would have a more feudal record over the last decade. Neither of those teams has gone in 10 years, and in fact, as most of you know, New Orleans has never gone.
And of course, you leave an organization who's had one coach for 27 years, and you come to one that has changed coaches 5 times in 15 years.
Arapastathis to punt, maybe. Does. Banks at the 22, so Dallas will take over their first down. We mentioned it, Frank, in the Hall of Fame game about postseason play, and we're talking about the Cardinals' futility. If you go back and look at the original teams in sports in the last 40 years, or the teams that were back there in 1947, the Cardinals are the only franchise in baseball, football, what was then the Professional Basketball League, and the National Hockey League, which had 6 teams. They're the only team that's never won a postseason game.
That is remarkable.
It's incredible. They've been in postseason action. Some of you may think back, remember the late unlamented playoff bowl, that silly concoction they had for a number of years where the runners-up of conferences would meet? Well, they did win that once, but that's not really a postseason playoff game. That was sort of like a consolation game.
Made for television.
Exactly. And it lasted for 10 years, and they played it in Miami. And that they won that, but that was more of an exhibition. But to think that this franchise has never won a postseason game.
I hate to see that. 12 for 28, 115 yards, but who can he get the ball to? I mentioned it several times tonight. In 1984, when Roy Green was healthy, Pat Tilley was healthy for most of the season. This was a great quarterback. He passed for over 4,600 yards, went to the Pro Bowl. That was the 4th highest yardage production ever in the history of the NFL. Just give him a little help.
2nd and 7, and White's going to throw. And it's caught by Cosby, and he goes out of bounds at the 36-yard line. Of course, the Cardinals, just to finish the fact they hadn't won a postseason game, they came here from Chicago. In Chicago, they won a postseason game before 1947. They were the champions one year. But moving to St. Louis in 1960, it's been 4 decades of a lot of futility.
Trippy and Engsman, 47 NFL champions. And that was it.
Cowboys at the 36, under 4 minutes to go. Dallas leads 24-7. Sherrard and Banks both split to the left. They give it to Herschel, and he is stopped at the 39-yard line. 2nd down and 7. So Dallas goes to Denver, then Washington goes to Dallas. So a couple of great matchups the next couple of weeks for the Cowboys. And of course, next week we've got Seattle and Steve Largent trying to break the record against San Diego. Cincy and Pittsburgh, Steelers winning. And as we look down the road at our schedule, Denver and the Jets, Washington and the Giants, Rams and Bears, 49ers and Redskins, all coming up between now and the middle of November.
And we'll see Dallas against the Rams late in the season. Oh,
on a Sunday night. Walker just protecting the football.
That's really good football. Twice now you saw Walker a moment ago. Late in the game, they're going to tackle the football. The Cardinals are. He was covering it up with both hands. I wanted to comment on it at the time, but that time he didn't fool around with it. had this game been in doubt or in question, Herschel, with a good football sense about him, would have tried to pick this thing up. He just covers it right here. Let's just don't hurt ourselves deep in our own territory.
Cardinals have taken a timeout with 2:53 to stop the clock.
They were booed.
Yeah. I guess those remaining want to go home. 3rd down and 18. Ain't many to go home anymore at Busch Stadium. Landry, and again, we've pointed it out for the first time this year, wearing that little headphone to be in contact with Hackett upstairs.
That's Reggie Collier, another former USFL quarterback who had a couple of really fine years with Jacksonville. Number 10.
They've been using him as a wide receiver the last couple of weeks in special situations. In fact, he was in the game last week at the end of the game when they threw the pass to Tony Hill and they ran out of time as Hill went out at the 9-yard line. He was trying to lay down a block.
Carl Poe is on the injured reserve list for Dallas, and as I mentioned, Mike Renfro can't come back until next week, but he will be coming back. Thornton Chandler, the rookie tight end, was shaken up earlier tonight. Doug Cosby has been playing on a sore ankle, but he looks like he's back at full speed. And Mike Sherrard, the rookie #1 draft pick out of UCLA, he is going to improve with each and every game.
3rd down and 18. White going deep for Sherrard, and at the 28-yard line it's picked off as Lionel Washington comes up with his 2nd interception of the night.
They have been going at Lionel Washington from the very first pass they have attempted. They have not left him alone. He makes a good play here, working against Sherrard, who beat him earlier for a touchdown. He is stride for stride, times it out beautifully, but they keep coming back, working against Washington. This time Danny White just a little short on that one, and Washington gets the interception. They really do come in intending to work on 1 or 2 individuals if they can get them in the right defense. And it's an eerie feeling if you have to be that individual.
And that was as good as a punt for Dallas, and that's what they would have had to do anyway, as Farrell makes the catch, and Lomax, after throwing 7 straight incompletions, completes one. Not a good night for the Cardinals, but at least a smile on that man's face as Washington has picked off a couple.
He's got 16 interceptions now, and just his 4th year.
And on 2nd and 4, it is picked off at the 32-yard line, and Ron Fellows with a little sweet revenge.
The other defensive back that they had centered on tonight. The Cardinals have been working on Fellows all night, or trying to, and that time Fellows, with a good comfortable lead at 24-7, just gambled on what he thought was going to be the square out. Now, all of these Cowboys are over there congratulating him because they knew what was going on tonight. Gene Stallings had designed an offense that was going to go right around Fellows. He got himself protection behind, stepped in front of the square out. He's gonzo.
And so a show of good fellowship has given the Cowboys their 30th point, and they've tied the NFL record.
Oh, you didn't say that.
Not really. Nobody's listening.
Mom's listening.
That's right. Ron Fellows.
That is a good feeling, even coming late in the game with a big lead. They have been working on him all night, and Fellows has been getting it all year long, as a matter of fact, because he is considered perhaps the weaker of the cornerbacks on the Cowboys, Everson Walls being the other one. How about that?
Septien's
what was
kick.
that?
Jorgensen looked like he was saying no good, didn't he, for a second? Then a grin, and they're going to get together on.
He misread it with another official. They got him straightened out. Septien will have a chat with him. That's Dick Nolan with his back to you, the defensive backfield coach of the Cowboys, who took over for Gene Stallings.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we went down to New Orleans a few years back. Dick Nolan was a coach, as a matter of fact, head coach at the time, and they called themselves the Aints. And there were about 20,000 Bag fans. Dick Nolan is now back with the Cowboys.
Well, you know, when the Bags come out in September, you're in a lot of trouble.
the early bag time.
There it is again. The Giants and Buffalo. We pointed it out before. Neither team made the playoffs. Not a good omen, but the Cowboys with a mark of 3-1 after tonight. They'll be tied with the Giants for second place in the NFC East, trailing Washington. Oh, that figures to be a great race.
Dallas beat the Giants 31-28. They beat Detroit 31-7, and they lost to Atlanta, but they got 35 points. They went down 35-37.
31-7 Cowboys. The irony is, as they'll have to kick again, that they tie that record because of a defensive play. Meanwhile, for the Cardinals, an attempt to regroup now. They're already 4 games out. Not that we're talking playoff aspirations here anyway. The Cardinals just looking for really some respectability as they head into the mid part of the season. And again, the Giants come in here next week. You know, it's interesting, Frank. We're talking about, maybe some trends as you look at the standings, and those will be the standings at the end of tonight's game. Do you notice in the first 4 weeks of the season, if there's any trend, it's in the interconference games. The NFC, for so long inferior to the AFC in that interconference category, the NFC has won 10 of the 14 games this year.
It's like a pendulum that changes. Remember when all the power was in the Central Division of the AFC?
Yeah. And now all of a sudden the NFC, which has won only one interconference rivalry since they began in 1972, has the lead. Chaz Fox takes it out to the 42-yard line. 2-minute warning. Dallas by 24. Pro 7 at the Marriott across the street. Euchre went back. He's going to watch the rest of the game on television.
You mentioned the Giants a moment ago coming in here to play the Cardinals. I watched the second half of their game yesterday against New Orleans. They got themselves 17-0 down. They came out and played as good a defense as I've seen played in a long time. They held the New Orleans Saints to no first downs in the second half, with the exception of one through a penalty.
First down and 10 from the 43-yard line. And that's a screen they wish they hadn't completed as Sikahema gets taken down by Hendricks. Manny Hendricks, the ex-basketball player who was cut and then brought back as a member of the secondary. There he is. Basketball player in college. Gilbrand liked him, though, as an athlete. Picked them up. Incomplete here. And a minute and a half to go in the fourth. And we can tell you that Nightline coming up following your late local news. And I'm sure many of you are aware of the fact that Nicholas Danoff flown today to Frankfurt, West Germany. His 30-day ordeal is over. And that is the subject of tonight's Nightline following your late local news. Cardinals pathetic on third down situations, and another one is picked off here as Victor Scott gets into the act, and that's 4 pickoffs for the Cowboys. A minute and 21 to go in the fourth quarter. 31-7 Cowboys.
When it comes apart, it totally comes apart, and it's the Cardinal team that somehow Gene Stallings is going to have to pull back together and try to hold them together until he can get some talent back out there as wide receiver. You've got to try and play catch up. You're down 31-7. Dallas in there with 6 defensive backs just sitting back, lying in the weeds, and they can humiliate you. This game was over a long time ago, however. What you have to think about is, how do we keep it together? This is called working on the contract, working on the stats, and this is when every defensive player you've got wants to be in that football game.
Now you've got Steve Pelluer in there. In no way would the Cowboys begin to think about pouring it on, especially with Landry and Stallings, so they'll just run straight ahead and hope to run out the clock as Todd Fowler takes it through the middle. And the dejected Cardinals again with a feeling of regrouping. Doug Marsh, the tight end, who had a pretty silent night.
You know what it's like to go into a season, all of a sudden you are 0-4. You know You have got to play the rest of these games, and there are 12 more. And unless you get some people back, it's going to be worse than it is right now, and it's pretty bad right now, particularly if you're this man, Neil Lomax. You're supposed to be the leader, but you better have some troops or you can't lead.
The folks in Indianapolis and Green Bay know the feeling very well. This is Darryl Clack, the draft choice out of Arizona State, a man who may have been groomed to be Dorsett's successor someday when he was drafted, but with Walker coming aboard, his role will now be obviously limited.
Totally different story for the Cowboys. Defense perhaps not what they'd like it to be, but offensively they've got it going in all kinds of different gears. The arrival of Herschel Walker has changed things dramatically. Tony Dorsett won't be gone long, and for this man, nothing but good thoughts, I'm sure, about his offensive unit.
And it's the Boo Birds saluting the Redbirds as the St. Louis Cardinals go down to defeat 31-7. The Dallas Cowboys now 3-1. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, good night from St. Louis. This ABC Sports exclusive has been brought to you by Renault Jeep, where commitment to quality and innovation form a winning team. By Miller High Life, purity you can see, quality you can taste. Made the American way since 1855. And by Ryder Truck Rental, Ryder, the right move. Travel arrangements made through and a promotional fee paid by United Airlines. United flies more people to Hawaii than any other airline. Nobody knows Hawaii like United. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports, recognized around the world as the leader in sports television.